Fine, bring that mongrel. If he wrecks my cab, you're going to have to pay for the damage, Mr. Van Winkle grumbled. Sabrina looked the car over as she walked around to the passenger side. It was a museum of horrible accidents. Scratches, dents, and duct tape things covered every inch of the cab. It reminded Sabrina of the kind of car that slammed into walls to check for safety. When she looked inside, she half expected to see a crash test dummy in the passenger seat. There was nothing that Elvis could do to the four-wheel death trap that the driver and Father Time hadn't done already. When they were all inside, Elvis's big head popped up over the front seat and he sniffed the air wildly. The little old man had a greasy sack on the dashboard that smelled of hot peppers and mozzarella. Elvis rested his hand on the driver's shoulder and eyed the bag hungrily, letting out a whimper. Not a chance, Fleabag. That's my lunch, Mr. Van Winkle said before he turned his attention to Sabrina. Her scarf had slipped down, revealing her mustache and goatee. I've never had a pirate in my cab before. Puck laughed so hard he snorted. Sabrina frowned and covered her face with her hand. Where to? The cabbie asked. We're going to the elementary school dedication by the river, Granny Rhoda said as she helped Daphne into her seatbelt. We'll be there in a flash, Mr. Van Winkle said. He put his keys into the ignition and turned the engine on. Then nothing. For some time, Sabrina thought the old man was thinking about a good route to the school, or maybe waiting for traffic to pass so he could back out. But when 5 minutes had elapsed, Sabrina looked over to see what was wrong. Granny, he's asleep again, she said. Granny leaned forward and eyed the man. Give him a little poke in the arm. Sabrina nudged his shoulder, but it didn't wake the old man. Try the horn, Granny Rhoda said. Sabrina pushed down on the car horn and the old man awoke with a start. For the love of all things good and holy, he cried. We're ready, Sabrina said. He rubbed his eyes once more and threw the car into reverse and pumped the gas. They were off. So you two are the famous Sabrina and Daphne Grimm, huh? Said the cabbie. I heard a lot about ya. What is you two killed a giant, took down Rumpelstiltskin, and went face to face with a Jabberwocky. Tough kids. Never heard of anyone walking away from one of those things, except maybe that night. What was his name again? The one with the Volpole blade? You've heard of the Volpole blade? Sabrina asked, remembering her research from the night before. Yep, that's the only thing that can kill a Jabberwocky from what I hear, the driver said. An idea where we could get one? The driver chuckled. It's not like they sell them at Walmart. No, there was only one Volpole blade, and from what I hear, it's lost. Sabrina frowned. So you're ever after? Daphne said. Sure, I'm Rip Van Winkle, the driver said. You ever hear of me? Daphne squealed. Meeting the man behind the famous Washington Irving story was like meeting a movie star to the 7-year-old girl. I read about you in the orphanage library, she said. You fell asleep for 100 years, and when you woke up, everything was different. How did it feel to sleep that long? There was no answer, and Sabrina glanced over to the driver. He had dozed off for a third time. Even worse, his foot was still pushing down the accelerator, and the cab was picking up speed rapidly. Instinctively, Sabrina grabbed the wheel, though she had no idea how to drive a car. Help, she cried. He's out cold again. Granny reached forward and pushed hard on the horn, and the man nearly jumped out of his seat. Wowie Kazoe, he exclaimed, giving the steering wheel a quick turn and sending the cab sailing into a parking lot. He braked just inches away from a dump truck. Everyone sat still and caught their breaths. As they calmed themselves, the dump truck started up and then pulled away. It had been obstructing their view, and when it was gone, they saw a shocking sight. It was the old school that had been blown to smithereens by Rumpelstiltskin just days before, but was completely gone. Every board and brick had been removed, and in its place was a brand new building. The roof was complete but for a few shingles. The walls had been painted, and workers wearing bright orange hot hands hustled from one place to the next, nailing the last details into place. It's impossible, Sabrina said as she opened her door and stepped out of the cab. How could they have built a brand new school in such a short time? She knew the answer the second she spotted one of Mayor Charming's witches hoisting the American flag up a shiny new flagpole. Morgan Le Fay was one of the three, a group of witches that also included Glinda, the Good Witch of the North, and from Pfeffer Kuchenhaus, the witch from the Hansel and Gretel story. They worked for the mayor and made most of his problems disappear overnight. The whole scene made Sabrina sick to her stomach. Mr. Kenneth was buried beneath this new school. He had died saving the children of Fairyport Landing, and this is how the town repaid him. If Sabrina could have, she would have ripped this new school down with her bare hands, rather than have her grandmother see it. "We should go," Sabrina said, as she turned to Granny Rhoda. She couldn't imagine how painful this must be for her grandmother. "This town is heartless." "I'll be fine, Liebling," Granny said. "Hello, Mrs. Graham," Morgan Le Fay said, sashaying over to the group. She was a beautiful woman, and the construction workers got her every move. "Isn't it wonderful?" "Yes, for a cemetery," Sabrina replied. Morgan's smile disappeared. "Well, I won't keep you. It's cold out here," she said, and she handed each of them a button with "Vote for Charming" printed on it in big purple letters. Granny thanked the witch and turned back to the cab driver. "I'd appreciate you waiting. We're going to leave Elvis here with you." "No way, lady," Mr. Van Winkle said as Elvis licked his face. "This thing is a menace on 4 legs." "But just imagine the tip you'll get if you stick around," Granny said. The driver scowled but nodded his head. Make it quick, will ya?" Granny Rhoda led the children into the building, where they found a series of paper signs pointing in the direction of the dedication ceremony. The signs ended at 2 double doors. Granny pushed them open, and they stepped inside the school's new gymnasium. The sounds of celebration filled Sabrina's ears. Ever after she had met since arriving at Fairyport Landing, and a whole bunch she had never seen before stood around talking. A round little robot man made entirely of copper stood nearby, talking to a skinny man made of sticks with an enormous pumpkin for a head. A black panther and a huge grey bear talked politics in a corner. There were also ogres, witches, fairy godmothers, an occasional cyclops, an enormous snail smoking a hookah pipe, and dozens of handsome princes and beautiful princesses gathered in small clusters. A beautiful cocoa-skinned woman in a green dress smiled and waved at Granny Rhoda. "It's nice to see you, Briar Rose," Granny called out to her. "Who's that?" Daphne asked. "You know her better as Sleeping Beauty," the old woman said. Daphne opened her mouth, inserted her palm, and bit down. "For the love of Pete, what are you doing here?" a voice added from behind them. Sabrina spun around and found a very small man in a black suit, eyeing them disapprovingly. Mr. Seven, as he was known, was the mayor's assistant, limo driver, and personal whipping boy. He was also one of the 7 dwarfs. He looked nervous, sweaty, and exhausted. "Hello, Mr. Seven. Snow White invited us down to see the new school," Granny Rhoda said to the little man. "Well, you've seen it. It's great, isn't it? Now why don't you leave? The boss is going to blow his top if he finds you here. He's in a foul mood today," the little man said, looking around nervously. "You mean worse than his normal foul mood?" Sabrina said. Just then, a tall, broad-shouldered man in a purple suit swaggered into the gym. He was impossibly handsome, with dazzling blue eyes, a strong jaw, and perfectly combed black hair. His face was one big smile, and he shook hands with everyone he encountered. He came over and grabbed Sabrina's good hand without even looking at her. He shook it vigorously and peered at her closely. He yanked the wool scarf from her face and groaned. "Mr. Seven, what are the Grimms doing here?" Mayor Charming demanded. The little man fumbled for words, but had no answer. Mayor Charming was the hero of about a dozen fairy tales. Also known as Prince Charming, he had saved many a damsel in distress and married a good number of them too. But somewhere along the way, he had stopped being charming and had turned into a first-class jerk. He was rude and condescending, and for almost 200 years he had been in a bitter feud with Sabrina's family. He had vowed to someday buy out the whole town and knock down the grim house. Still, there was more to him than just nasty hot air. Sabrina had to admit that the mayor came through in a pinch, once lending a hand to stop a giant from destroying the town, and helping prevent Rumpelstiltskin from breaking through the magical barrier and kept the Ever Afters trapped in Fairyport Landing. But Sabrina wasn't sure he hadn't done it out of self-interest. Mr. Seven, I ask you a question. Who was the moron who invited the Grimms? Charming asked angrily. I invited them. Charming spun around and saw Snow White enter the gymnasium. At one time, the mayor and the teacher were engaged to be married, but Snow White had left the prince at the altar, putting an end to their happily ever after. Sabrina couldn't blame her. Sure, Charming was beautiful to look at, but when he opened his mouth, ugh! Still, it was obvious to everyone that the two were still not over each other. When I said moron, I didn't mean you, of course, Charming stammered. I would hope not, Miss White said. But why on earth would you invite them? The mayor said. This is a ceremony for the Ever After community only. Almost everyone here hates this family. Well, I don't, Billy, Miss White replied. The mayor's angry face immediately softened. Well, Charming stammered. Of course, they're welcome. He bent over and whispered in Sabrina's ear. Take your grandmother and sister and find a rock to crawl under. This is over. And find a rock to crawl under until this is over. And go wash your face, child. You look like the captain of the cereal box. Well, I suppose it's showtime, he said, straightening up and forcing a smile to his face. Don't want to keep the public waiting. Good luck, the beautiful teacher said as she stood on tippy-toe and kissed the mayor on the cheek. Charming's face turned bright red and he looked a little dizzy. He mumbled a few incoherent words and then walked away. You've got quite a power over him, Mr. Seven said to Snow White, who turned bright red and giggled. I wish we could have you around 24 hours a day. She grinned. If you will excuse me, I'm going to find a spot a little close to the stage. Granny winked and Snow White disappeared into the crowd. Suddenly, two tubby men came through the double doors with Sheriff Hampstead, a grim family friend, in tow. The two men wore white shirts, blue jeans, and hard hats, and were carrying a set of blueprints of them. Sabrina recognized them as the sheriff's former deputies, Borman and Swinehart. The sheriff was doing his best to get their attention. To the casual observer, the three looked like normal, if a bit overweight people, but Sabrina and her family knew their secret identities. Borman, Swinehart, and Hampstead were really the three little pigs in magical disguise. I can't believe you two won't even consider it, Hampstead complained. Listen, Ernest, Swinehart said, spinning around to face his former boss. There's a reason why we didn't invite you to be a partner in our construction company. You are obsessed with straw. This new school is made entirely out of wood and brick. I'm just saying that straw has come a long way, Hampstead said. It has all kinds of practical applications. It's the building material of the future. I'd agree if we were building something that was supposed to blow away, Bowman said. A kite, for instance, would be perfect, but we're building a school and one that sits very close to a river, too. One thunderstorm with 20-mile-an-hour winds would knock a straw building over just like that. The two rotund men walked away, leaving Hampstead to chase after them. Just then, Mayor Charming climbed onto the stage and stood at the podium. He tapped on the microphone and smiled widely. Fine citizens of Fairyport Landing, welcome to a new era in our town's education. I don't know why everyone is celebrating, Park said loudly. Opening a new school should be cause for the National Day of Mourning. The entire audience turned to look at the fairy boy. He grinned broadly and waved. The mayor, on the other hand, bit down on his lip and tried to control his anger before he continued. I'd like to thank some of the community organizations that. That's the end of this video. I said more. I think that'll probably be the last one for tonight. Anyways, goodbye.